baby. All right, yo, what's good, gamers? What's good? My name is Dr. Ryan Charles, Psych Sensei, and welcome to the stream, baby. Today we'll be talking about, does increasing the amount of practice, the quantity of practice, actually improve performance in esports, especially? So super stoked to be reading this, and maybe we'll play some Pokemon Unite. We will see, but hope everyone's doing well. If you want to learn more about me, please visit my website, psychsensei.com. There you can find all the resources. I try to drop some pieces of content every single day on my YouTube, my TikTok, my LinkedIn, my Facebook. If there's a social media out there, really, I probably got it. So if you want to visit my website, psychsensei.com, you can be sure to get all those resources. And also, if you want to work with me one-on-one, or you want to figure out your win condition and start working towards it today, yo, fill out a free consultation form and you and I can sit down and figure out what's kind of going on, see where you want to go, and maybe make a plan to get there. That also can be found on my website, psychsensei.com. But if you're new to the stream, what's good? My name is Dr. Ryan Taro. What I like to do is I like to take articles for now and read them, and I also should also take notes, which I will be doing. That maybe you can see later. But yeah, I hope everyone's chilling. I hope everyone's having a good day and interested in some article readings. All right, without any further ado, let's pop into it, shall we? I was also thinking about something like having something called like behind the video, making the video or something, and just like going to edit videos or stuff. But I have so many ideas, but so little time. And I'm sorry if I'm a little distracted. I hear my wife, she is talking about luxury bags right now, and there's numbers being thrown around, and it doesn't make any sense to me, the size of bag and the price of said bag. I don't, but maybe I'm not supposed to, and that's okay. All right, so today's article is entitled "The Relationship Between the Quantity of Practice and In-Game Performance During Practice with Tournament Performance in Esports, an 8-week study." This is done by Pulse, Novak, Bennett, Panchuk, Kautz, and Franson. And the study is, let's see, I believe this is 2014, 2021, 2014, 2024, I thought, 2021. And I believe this is coming out of Australia. They do some good esports research down in Australia. Yo, Ultralisk, what's good, baby? I see you lurking. All right. All right. Electronic sports, esports involve individuals or team players or teams of players who compete in video game competitions through human-computer interaction. You know what's really funny too is like reading these articles, bro, and they try to put like these really simple terms, but trying to make them really scientific-like. I wish I had that talent. I don't. Participation in esports has risen exponentially over several decades now, with a population over 100 million players worldwide. Despite high recreational participation rates, only a small number of players, a few hundred to several thousand, depending on the video game, compete as professionals, like my good friend Ultralisk, man. That's crazy that there's still a German team for HOTS, bro. That's wild. There are many different esports genres: first-person shooters and multiplayer online battle arenas, or MOBAs. Esports players typically control an in-game avatar in a virtual environment to eliminate opposing players or achieve an objective. Although the motivations for pursuing a career in esports are documented, the attainment of expertise in esports has received considerably less attention, despite being investigated extensively in other fields such as music, sport, medicine, and academia. Yo, Bonbon, what's good, baby? What's good? Happy Friday, my friend. By the way, Bonbon, where are you located, man? What state, or I was gonna say island. Continent? All bad. All right, at the forefront of expertise research are studies examining the practice activities, i.e. the frequency and type of practice of an individual. Furthermore, researchers further explore how the amount of practice an individual engages in relates to attaining expertise. And don't get it twisted. Just because you spend a lot of time doing something doesn't mean you're an expert in it. Becoming an expert in something also requires you to focus and be intentional in that thing. So don't get it twisted. Overall, extensive engagement in the domain-specific activities, competition, organized training, and individual practice is necessary to attain expert performance. Yep. North America. What state are you in, buddy? In many domains, the attainment of exercise can be influenced by the time engaged in practice. As a result, researchers have focused on identifying which types of practice is most beneficial for developing expertise, as this information can assist with improving the effects of practice. Some research argue that practice must be deliberate and purposeful to attain expertise. You know what's really interesting? Other people will also argue against this, that you just do it, I guess. Other authors nailed it, argue that engaging in a wide range of activities, especially at an early age, is beneficial for development of expertise as an enduring characteristic. I mean, I agree with that. And the reason I'd say, like, at an early age is because if you can create a lot of knowledge, like general knowledge of what you're doing or how things relate, I mean, you probably are better able at generalizing expertise and knowledge and, for example, how to learn in one area and then doing it another. So I agree. I mean, that the same is the argument if you should be a single sport athlete or like a specialist, or if you want to be like a jack of all trades, try them all. Me personally, I couldn't stand just playing one sport, bro. I just couldn't do it. So each season, I remember playing a different sport, you know? So, but other people I remember like played year-round basketball and they're really good, but I just could not do it. I couldn't keep up with the year-round basketball people because they were big and strong and tall and skillful, and I was just playing other sports. Nevada, nice. All right, despite this, it is generally accepted that amount of practice an individual engages in is related to the attainment of expertise across many domains. I mean, sure. I think this goes to the 10,000 hour rule, which is not based on fact. Or I think there's like studies that show that 10,000 hours doesn't technically make you an expert. But yeah, I mean, the more time you spend doing something, the better you're going to get at it. I think intentionality just cuts down the speed in which you get better. It kind of accelerates it. But then again, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice. But how often do we do that? All right, many studies typically observe practice over extended periods of time, months to years. Practice can also provide acute, days to weeks performance outcomes and performance improvements. Did you know that? Yeah. Understanding the acute effects practice has on performance is beneficial for players and coaches to support training of specific skills. Furthermore, there's an inherent belief that future performance is influenced by training in the weeks immediately preceding competition. In other words, is you play as you train? I see. In other words, this is a typo. Look at that. Crushing it. In other words, you play as you train. That I can't agree. Therefore, it is crucial to understand the relationship between practice and performance at an acute level, such as preceding weeks of competition. Esports is novel, which is new. I thought that like, oh, this is a novel. It has a beginning, middle, and end. No, it's new. Novel. In the practice settings, a mix of competitive gameplay under the same task constraints observed in competition and isolated practice activities closely resemble competition contexts. This representativeness of practice environments is relatively uncommon in other domains. For example, professional esports players undertake much of their practice by competing against other professional esports players at the same game under the same rules in competition without requiring physical proximity due to the virtual nature of competition. See, I think though, this sentence kind of jacks. It's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of misleading. Because for example, right? Let's literally take it what this is. Professional esports players undertake much of their practice by competing against other professional esports players in the same game under the same rules of competition without requiring physical proximity due to the virtual nature of competition. All right, why I'm highlighting this is because this word practice here, practice by competing, is that really practice if you're competing? Because if you're practicing by competing, are you practicing or are you practicing the competing aspect, right? When I think about practice, I'm thinking about focused, intentional behaviors that you're trying to improve either through drills or scenarios or specific things that you're doing to practice versus you're competing. I think this is the crux, honestly, of the problem of training in esports. Per the last article, the thing that was discussed and made it challenging for parents to support their kids in pursuing esports is that they couldn't tell the difference between training and playing and competing. And I think that is a really big challenge in esports in general, where people don't understand the difference between scrims and prac. And sure, these are two different words that can mean the same thing at the same time. When you're doing a scrimmage, think of what you're doing. You're playing another team, probably at full speed, trying to win the competition. Versus a practice, there are drills inside of it, or there are scenarios that we go through to make sure that you are obtaining, maintaining, gaining the skills you need to actually compete. Think of like having practice games in chess. You want to win, but you're playing the game for practice. I'm not sure the point you're making is the best. It is to be... I'm not sure the point you're making is to be honest. The point I'm trying to make is like, even in chess, you can practice different scenarios. Like, for example, in chess, you can have specific scenarios where you could play it from a certain position. You can stop the game and restart it. You can play it out from this point of the match. I think even the computer, you can have different scenarios of historic games of how to play it, right? You can literally pause, you can play it, you can restart it from this point, you can take off pieces and restart, like there's actual quote unquote drills or scenarios that you can actually set up in chess. Like you have points to play and you can stop and restart and then play from that point again. So that's what I mean by drills. But for example, in League of Legends, can you do that? No, you can't take a dragon fight, pause it, talk with your team, replay it, or even against AI or computers, or think about like Valorant. You can't pause the game and have like a drill. Sure, there's a sandbox, and I think Valorant is better set up for it. But unlike chess or other games, there's not very many opportunities where you have the sandbox scenario where you can try other things. They are competing seriously in the sense of desiring to win, but there are no stakes when they're doing this practice, not a tournament. So now we're talking about two different things, right? So are we talking about practice? Are we talking about a scrim? Or are we talking about a competition? Because I think we have to define these terms and use them appropriately. Because, for example, you're practicing a game, sure, but that's more like a scrim, I think, what you're describing. When I'm thinking about a practice for chess, it's someone studying positions of moves, results of games, practicing specific positions in chess, either on black side or white side, Well, they say much of their practice, not 100% practice. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, in my experience, the esports practice, what does that mean? There's so many different ways to scrim, or even talking with collegiate coaches or professional coaches, they all have different versions of what scrims look like. There is not a, overarching, this is how you have scrims, like basketball practice, right? Typically, when you go to a basketball practice, they're all kind of the same. Other than we all play the game, a scrim for a professional or even amateur or collegiate team is all different. Esports players study tactics, strategy, and absolutely, they can have simulated video footage analysis and such things too. Absolutely, that's part of it. But what I'm saying is that, what game can you, like chess, set up a scenario, because I play chess.com. I have that chess app, you know, and I can play historical puzzles, or I can play historical matches where they say, here's the board, now play it. And then they can say, okay, from this position, here's some moves that you can do, you know. But in esports, unlike maybe StarCraft has it, where you can play a scenario exactly how it was, pause the game and play it out again. But in esports, you can't. There's not modes that you can actually do this. Yes, I agree with you that they study tactics and strategy and analysis. True. At the same time, what I'm thinking about is how often do they actually practice specific things, specific drills. For example, like in Valorant or CS, you can play DM. You can't, like, deathmatch. You can go into shooting dummies and stuff like that to practice aim. You do have things like aim trainers. True that you do have those things. At the same time, you can't play around like how you want it and script it, you know? For example, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Absolutely. So I'm saying different games, absolutely, I agree with you. It depends on the game. So different games do have practice scenarios. That is true, but not many, you know? And again, the training and specific drills that you can do in that game looks a lot different than in traditional sports. I think you can, for example, in Rocket League, have more like drills that you can actually run over and over again to practice the moves and mechanics of the game, you know? But you don't have that in League of Legends. You know, you can have aim training in Valorant and CS, and I guess you can have aim training in League where you go into practice tool and shoot dummies. You can do that, you know, but there's not specific things to set, like practice setups and stuff like that. That doesn't exist. So it really depends on the game. But I think the limiting factor is the developer, right? Or third-party people who make practice tools. And does the developer allow you to use that thing? I mean, other things too, like fighting games probably are better at the practice and the simulations because you can practice the moves, you know? But it really depends on the game. An equivalent scenario of an association football context would have 22 of the world's best players from different teams and nations practice and competing in 90 minutes of 11 v 11 gameplay on a full-size pitch on the same rules of competition. Yes, but also, this is not really equivalent. I mean, this is the equivalent of what practice looks like currently, right? Where it's 11-11, you just play full speed on the pitch. At the same time, what I'm talking about is would be like the drills of passing in soccer. You practice that thing. Or you practice touching or making triangles or running or whatever. Like that's what I'm talking about when you talk about drills versus just playing 11-on-11 pickup games. You know, that's essentially it'd be like, oh, I'm practicing basketball, but all you go to do is like go to 24-hour fitness and you play pickup basketball, like without doing shooting drills, without doing running drills, without doing ball handling drills. Like essentially that's what you're doing. But then you think that you're playing 24-hour fitness basketball and that's real basketball, you know, but it's really not. That's just a version of basketball. And all right. All right. As such, examining both the quantity of practice and the in-game performance measures during practice can help improve our understanding of the relationship between practice and performance. Therefore, the present study employed a perspective designed to examine the quantity of practice, and in-game performance measures during practice of professional players over an 8-week period, immediately prior to a major esports competition. So they're talking about 8-week training before playing. Following previous work, it was hypothesized the quantity of practice and in-game performance during practice in the weeks preceding a major competitive event will explain a proportion of the variance in tournament performance. Okay, so I like how they didn't say like it's going to go up or down. It just says there will be a difference. All right, we're going to skim through this part because it's boring. Okay, 43 professional players, 14 separate teams. Oh, this is, I believe, Counter-Strike PGL, baby. That's not bad. This study came out in 2021? 2021? Wow, not bad. All right. So they used 8 weeks. Okay, maybe this is it dictates the right now. Let's set up. Okay. All right. A study used an 8-week design to examine how the quantity of practice and in-game performance measures during practice were related to performance in a major esports tournament. Mind you, they were preparing for the major. Lulz. In terms of quantity of practice, the two main variables of interest were the time spent in-game and the time spent in competition. The time spent in-game typically involves practice focused on developing individual skills, whilst time spent in competition is practice in a competitive team-based environment. Okay. Most common types of individual practice is practicing in deathmatch, which is a mode features instant respawns, with the ability to purchase any primary and secondary weapons with no regards to money of the economy, which is not evident in a competitive setting. Okay, now we also need to ask the question, when they do play deathmatch, what are you actually practicing versus what are you actually practicing in a competitive environment? So for example, I think that in deathmatch, you're probably practicing aim, probably practicing game sense, you're probably practicing the map that you're playing on, but there's no other coordination. So you're probably just practicing your raw mechanical skill in deathmatch, in my opinion, versus in a team-based practice or scrim, you're working on team coordination, communication, and those types of things. Calling plays, using util, coordination, versus just you clicking heads. Each match lasts 10 minutes, and the player with the highest points wins the round. Time spent in competition. Okay. This is how they say it. Okay, time spent in competition involves 2 teams. Consistent. Okay. Now they're talking about a scrim. Okay. That's good. I'm going to highlight the difference. Individual practice. Okay. Yeah, 30 rounds is a lot. That scrim can be like an hour plus. Okay, the first team to score 16 points was up to the game. After 15 rounds, they switch sides. After each round, 1 minute 45 seconds long. However, the terrorists. Okay. I've never seen it end in a tie, but I'm wondering literally if they're talking about scrims here, because that would make more sense. Like a scrim. Okay. All right. All right, here they go. All right, independent practice, independent variable, quantity of practice, community of time spent in game, community time spent in competition, hours weekly, time spent in game, hours weekly, time spent in competition, in-game performance measures, ooh, win percentage, oh, daily, weekly, okay. I really wouldn't. I can understand why they put the KDA as like a important measurement, but not always the best. Okay. Let's go to discussion. Because then they ran the study. Okay. We're going to skip all the boring parts and let's go for the parts you want. The current study examined the quantity of practice and in-game performance during practice of professional players, esports players, over an 8-week period in the lead up to a major esports tournament. Overall, the quantity of practice and in-game performance during practice explains a small portion of variance in tournament performance. Small portion, huh? A small portion. More specifically, the variables that are most associated with better tournament performance are kill-death ratio and score during the lead up to competition. Okay, so they based how well you were doing with KDA and score. Like, I guess, of the game. Okay. When analyzing the practice at a weekly basis, most of the variables associated with better tournament performance were measured in-game performance during practice rather than the quantity of practice. most of the variables associated with better tournament performance were measured of in-game performance during practice rather than the quantity of practice. So would this mean the quality of said practice and what you're actually doing in the practice versus actually practicing the time? So would that mean then, from this one sentence, that it's more important in your game to be focused on what is happening in your game versus how many games you've actually played? Then that makes me think that if you're playing a lot of games and feeling like you're improving but not actually improving, what are you actually learning and focusing on? For example, this makes me think that if you've been bronze for like 8 seasons, but you've been putting in like 80 games a day, the reason that you're bronze is not the time that you put in it, but the lessons that you're not getting out of it. Just like you can go to school and still be an idiot, you know, like if you don't actually try to learn anything, you could be in school for 8 hours a day, but if you didn't actually pay attention and you're still stupid, well, it's because you went there and did nothing for a long period of time. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just thinking, bro. Okay, evidently, accumulated total time spent in game and total time spent in competition and weekly time spent in game and weekly time spent in competition durations of practice had limited association with better tournament performance in professional esports players. Time is a construct, my boys. Time is a construct, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much time you put into something. What matters more is how you spend that time. Similarly, McNamara et al. Demonstrated that accumulated quality demonstrated that demonstrated that the accumulated quantity of practice accounted for 1% of variance in performance among elite athletes in team and individual sports. 1%? 1%. That's not a lot. That's like nothing. 1%? What? Furthermore, Young reported that the total sum of all accumulated practice had no significant correlation with performance for middle distance runners. Okay, we're talking about physical performance now. How much do things like reaction time and IQ determine tournament performance? That's a good question. I mean, I think 1% sounds low. Someone should check the math on data on this. I doubt it would replicate. I mean, you totally can. Here's the article, McNamara et al. 2016. I can find you the article right here. If you want to look up the article, it's called The Relationship. Here it is. McNamara. This one. The relationship between deliberate practice and the performance in sports. You can do that data yourself. Right there. Boom, baby. And this data is very old too. Esports might have been competitive back then as it is today, so it didn't matter. Well, technically, they're talking about regular. This article that they're citing is regular sports, right? And so, oh wait, that was 2016. I was looking at the 1998 one. Oh, 1998. Oh, this last quote. This one. Again, I think what they're trying to find is previous research that kind of agrees with this statement they're making. I was like, okay, here's other research articles that also state this, right? So 1998 Young, you can look that up. If you want to look up that one, it's this one. Deliberate practice and the acquisition of expert performance in Canadian middle distance running. But then again, I think even if you take this 1998 one, if you were even trying to logic it out, I mean, think about middle distance, right? Or whatever, you're just building endurance. So, I mean, sure, maybe. But I wonder if it's also like at a certain point does your endurance get kind of maxed out? I don't know. Okay. As such, this finding does not provide support that individual differences, even among professional esport players, are closely related to the accumulated quality of practice. However, practice which is deliberate and purposeful is likely necessary to reach high level expertise in esports. Yes, I would agree. I don't think that's a bad statement. Because I mean, I think that statement would go along with everything else that you do in life. Like, for example, if you're not deliberate or you're not purposeful or not intentional in the things you do, even from like relationships, right? They fall apart or you don't excel in them. So, yeah. Despite this, it is apparent that there is more to differentiate between performance and the quantity of practice at the professional level. I think another thing that it's really important to talk about is like at that level of being a professional, everyone can push buttons, everyone can click heads, everyone has a basic understanding of the game, you know. And what makes professionals really good, or like good professionals with great professionals, I would say it's probably the IQ, the game IQ, the creativity, the mastery of fundamentals. Like that probably is more important than reaction time, because I think they're debunking that, you know, oh, people are in their 20s, they're like too old for esports and gaming, or like, oh man, they're washed by like 25. And what you're really realizing is, sure, reaction time does go down. I'm talking milliseconds. They do go down. I mean, you get slower over time, but at the same time, the way you compensate for slower reaction time is just not being there when they shoot. You know, and how are you able to do that? It's by knowing what they're probably looking at or not looking at due to your high game knowledge / IQ. So all of the other things that people are realizing, or organizations are realizing, is that what older players, quote unquote, older players bring to the table is expertise, is abilities to lead, is knowledge. And so oftentimes those things may outweigh sheer mechanics. Because, for example, if you ban away a champion, or you ban away a map that a player does not know how to play optimally, and they don't have the experience to play, like, for example, Fearless right now, or they don't have the example to play multiple maps or multiple positions, they may not be as effective at the game as a more experienced player who does not have as good hands per se, you know? So there's ways you can compensate for reaction time, and I think people are definitely overemphasizing reaction time, because if you're smarter, you won't need faster reaction time, because you're not going to be where people think you are. So for me, I think it's, maybe because I'm old and decrepit, I think it's more important to be smart. And that's something you can actually train, right? You can train your brain easier, I think, than reaction time, in my opinion. All right. As such, tracking the quantity of practice over a longitudinal period with different expertise levels remains an area of future research. Okay, so they just compared pros to pros, and they're saying, oh, we need to like compare pros to like non-pros to get a better idea of like what's actually happening. That's fair. Esports practice is primarily conducted in an environment whereby the players actively respond to a task with an explicit goal, receive immediate formative feedback, and repeatedly perform the same or similar tasks. I would say that this is ideal. I've seen, maybe the goal is to play it, but I mean, they do receive feedback, but it's not always linear. You know, like, this was the goal of the game, this is how we want to do it. So, and I would say ideally, yes, but does this happen like this? Questionable. I think personally, if esport coaches could borrow like how people learn in school and set it up like school, shout out to Casper Do. I think Casper from like OG, and now he's on Astralis, did a really good job of that, you know? But I would say most coaches don't do this very well. They will tell you what you did wrong and what the idea is, but to actually get someone to do and see and shape their behavior, not many coaches can do it, in my opinion. I've not met many coaches that can do that. I've met a lot of coaches that can point out problems and tell you why you suck, but I've met very little coaches that can take you to where you need to go and show you how. Very little, to be honest. And I think in the world of esports, the word coach is very broad. You know what I mean? Okay, the time spent in game typically involves practice focused on developing individual skills, whereas time spent in competition involves practice in a competitive team-based environment. It is suggested that engaging in both types of practice is beneficial for the development of expertise. Fair. It is like, I mean, yeah, because I mean, if you do both, you have different looks. You can generalize the data versus only seeing one, and then you're playing a game based on not the real game, you know, or like not at full speed. So I think you need to do both. But I think overemphasizing one or the other probably is bad, but having a strong mix of both is best. It is likely that involvement in these types of practice presents esports players with a different action sequences and situational context. Like I said it. Okay. However, during the lead up to competition, the amount, okay, maybe this is gonna be interesting, so I gotta slow down. Okay. However, fancy butt, during the lead up to a competition, the amount an individual engages in practice, average of 32 hours per week, damn, is unlikely to lead to better tournament performance. We'll read that one more time because that's bonkers. All right. However, during the lead up to competition, the amount an individual engages in practice is unlikely to lead to better tournament performance. So, this makes me think, though, why do people practice so much before a competition? Because they think, if I practice this much, I'm going to win. I think maybe the practicing is kind of what you're saying, Bon Bon, where it's kind of like, man, maybe the practicing or overtraining is a way to assuage the anxiety or feel like I'm doing something to prepare myself for this competition. And if I do this, it's going to make me less anxious because it's going to make me feel perceptually more prepared. And hey, that's important to be ready and to do your best, your perception, right? So that's important to consider for the mental. At the same time, objectively, it may not, right? How do esports players lower anticipation and anxiety before tournaments? And that's a huge topic, man. There's a lot of different ways you can do individual base, you know, how an individual preps their anxiety or decreases their anxiety before it, or you can deal with it with a team. You know, most importantly, it's making sure that they're like food, water, shelter, sleeping, you know, all those kinds of things. I've seen one paper which says that you can reframe anticipation, anxiety, and excitement, which works to make things better. Absolutely. I tell my players that and coaches that all the time, or even students who are preparing for tests. And the reason why that's absolutely true is because anxiety and excitement in your body are the exact same processes, like physical processes. Like, for example, you may get sweaty, you may get shaky, your thoughts may race, your heart may beat may pick up, your adrenaline may get dumped if you're both feeling anxious and excited. Interestingly, though, the only thing that makes that body process anxiety or excitement is your perception of it. Literally, the way you see it, the way you interpret it makes it so. So, for example, imagine two people sitting on top of a roller coaster, right? Both of them are going up the same roller coaster. They're having that same experience. But this person over here could be like, oh my God, I can see my house. Oh, we're so high. We're going to go so fast. Oh my God. And get really excited, right? You got the same person saying, oh my God, I can see my house. Oh my God, we're going so high. Oh my God, I'm going to go so fast. Like, literally, the only difference, because this person could be having the time of their life and this person can have a full-blown panic attack. The only difference is its mere interpretation of your body sensations. The same thing can happen. For example, if you drink a bunch of caffeine Or for example, you take a stimulant and you have the same somatic experience. If you take caffeine or you take a stimulant, what's going to happen? Your heartbeat may increase, you may get sweaty, you may get shaky, your thoughts may go fast, adrenaline might get dumped. But when people experience this, sometimes they experience this as anxiety, or when I drink this, I get shaky, I get anxious, or when I take my medication, I get anxious. But really, that's just the drug working. And so if you're having this kind of reaction, sometimes it helps to realize, I'm not having an anxiety attack. This is just caffeine. This is taurine. This is a Monster, or this is a Red Bull, not sponsored. And this is how it's working in me. And then if they think that it's working, okay, now they can use the caffeine or use the stimulant versus, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I'm having a panic attack. You know? For me, the Buddhist non-attachment method works, but at the expense of performance and other things usually. Yeah, I've heard that. You know, I've heard some people do the non-attachment thing, but the reason why it may hurt your performance and other things is because if you non-attach from something, essentially what you're doing is you're non-attaching your care to the outcome or to the object, right? I don't care about it. If I lose it, it's all right. If it doesn't go my way, listen, it's all right. But at the same time, the reason why it may affect your performance negatively is because sometimes you need that care. You need to care to win. Sometimes you need to care. I mean, think about tilt. The reason why you get tilted or people get tilted is because they care about the results of the game. They care about the outcome of the game. Thus, it pushes them to perform or pushes them to do certain things to achieve the outcome that they want. And when that gets denied, you become tilted because something is stopping you from doing the thing or achieving the thing that you care about. Now, have you had the other games where you don't get tilted and you just don't care? How do you perform? Probably a little less, not as great, you know, because you don't care if you win or lose. You're just there. And sometimes that can reduce the pressure to allow you to perform. You know, other times, if you use the non-attachment, we are like maybe a few steps away from apathy, which is no care at all, which is bad. Because again, if you think about this relationally, the opposite of love, when people think about it, they think it's hate, right? But in actuality, the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is apathy. Because if you love something, you're thinking about it, you're obsessing about it, it's in the front of your mind, right? At the same time, if you hate something, it's the same thing. They're living rent-free in your head. You are obsessing about them. You're thinking about that thing you hate. You're hoping bad things on them, maybe, you know? So you're actually still thinking about them, which takes heart and headspace and energy. But really, if you don't care about something, you don't even have energy towards them. You're not thinking about them. You could care less what they're doing. Like, that's true opposite of love is apathy. So, I mean, that's why it's kind of scary. If you do practice the non-attachment, the stoicism, that's, you know, I hear it's really popular. You know, be careful. I would suggest using that in moderation, because if overused, now we're entering apathy, which is not so great for performance or care or, you know, motivation. Oh, you might be right. Practice is anti-anxietic? Anti-anxiety, yes. I find excitement highly dysphoric, no different from anxiety. Well, I mean, then maybe it's just managing your anxiety, because I'm not quite sure how you could maybe normalizing the experience of this is just something that happens, but finding a reframe that works for you, Bomba, might be super helpful. What do you think about Pavlov mini device that gives you small electric shocks, which could maybe be programmed to give you an electric shock if your heart rate, skin could... I wouldn't do that. I mean, okay, with that, what's the point? Like, okay, you get shocked. Here's the thing. Your cognitive awareness of anxiety and stuff is probably there, so you're probably anxious and it shocks you because now you're just using biofeedback to shock yourself to something you already experienced. So, I mean, why? What's the point? You know, like, I think what might be more important is for you to build up your awareness of your anxiety, understanding how it affects you, and then finding techniques, thought switching, refocusing, breathing, mindset shifts, whatever you need, thought logs to help you walk back that anxiety. Because essentially what you're doing is using biofeedback to get feedback on a state of being that you're already currently experiencing that you're aware of. I would say if you're not aware of your anxiety, then you want to use biofeedback as a way to help you understand, oh, this is what anxiety feels like. Oh, my body feels like this one. And then you get the shock. Like, sure, that makes sense. But if you already have the awareness, you're just shocking yourself. But if you're into that, kinky. Because the dysphoria is caused by physiological response, sweating, heart rate, etc., rather than the cognitive state. So, I mean, even if you want to reframe this, right, you could also say, the sweaty heart rate and stuff like that is me getting ready to, this is my body preparing itself to achieve the thing at hand. I need my heart rate to be up because that's going to be pumping, oxygen to where I need it. I need the sweat to cool down my body because it's going to be thinking a lot, right? Because I'm excited. Versus all these are signs for me that I'm dying. I've struggled to gaslight myself into reframing any position. Well, technically you're not gaslighting yourself, right? Like, gaslighting yourself is like a negative thing, but a reframe is more positive, where you're seeing something from a different light that's more useful for you, because from a different perspective, that's all you're doing is you're switching your perspective from something to something else. And if you can see something as different, it probably is different, I want to associate these physiological symptoms with pain to stop them. That doesn't make any sense, because if you do that, it sounds like you're making your anxiety worse, to be honest. Like, if you're associating a natural, real response to something as your body preparing to help you, as something as, oh, when I experience this pain, I want it to stop, you're basically trying to stop a natural process that's in your body to keep you alive, so by doing what you're doing, you're actually intentionally decreasing your ability to perform, or distracting yourself intentionally to do worse. That doesn't make any sense to me, because it's not going to stop. Your body is designed to do this. Your body is designed to stress. So that's a natural process. For example, that's kind of like saying, like, oh, I'm trying to reframe my bladder telling me that I need to pee as pain, so I don't pee anymore. Like, your body is designed to tell you that you need to pee, so you go pee. But if you try to reinterpret that natural reaction that happens all the time as something painful to don't do it, that's not good. That means you're gonna have too much pee in your body, and then that's actually gonna cause an actual problem. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't suggest doing what you're doing, to be honest. I wouldn't suggest it. I think that's going to lead you more to an unnatural human experience, because you're associating a natural human experience with something unnatural, that's actual gaslighting. In my opinion, from what you're telling me. Like, I'm trying to make sense. I can understand what you're trying to do, because you don't want to feel the anxiety, but at the same time, anxiety's in your body, Like, that's like, you have amygdalas in your brain that keep you alive, and you have literal structures dedicated to anxiety, if you want to think of it that way, like, and from a different perspective, like, you need anxiety to live, or you need stress to live and to perform. It's not a bad thing. I think that's the other reframe. When people think stress is bad or anxiety is bad, it's not necessarily bad. It's what it does to you, what it makes you do, what you do with it. It's about managing the anxiety, not trying to get rid of it. Because if you got rid of the anxiety, what would move you? I mean, another way to think about this is the Yerkes-Dodson stress model, which shows you that you need stress to perform optimally. Like, there's a model and a theory dedicated to it. So you need it. You could rip your amygdala out. You would die really quickly, though. The idea was that the association of these dysphoric symptoms with pain would instantly prevent further thought, which would prevent these psychological. That's not possible. I can see that. That's a thought fallacy, though. I wanted to rip my amygdalas out. You would die. Psychopaths live fine without anxiety and no, they don't. I mean, by saying that they're psychopaths, they're not living a normal life. Thus, they have a diagnosis. Thus, they're in the DSM. Like, some people naturally lose their amygdala due to some disease that calcifies that, and then they get hurt. I mean, that's the same thing as saying, like, I wish I didn't feel pain. You know, like physical pain. I thought that would be a cool superpower. At the same time, then you break your arm and you don't know that it's broken, and then you bleed out. Or you touch something on the stove and you burn yourself, you know, and that's bad. Just like the fear thing, if you did actually lose your amygdalas, you would literally walk into traffic, maybe, because you wouldn't be afraid of it. Or someone could murder you and because you're not aware of your environment. Or you could put yourself in really dangerous positions because you don't have that sense. So maybe, yeah, you can say that now with your brain that you have, but if you actually did take out your amygdalas or your pain receptors, it would be really bad. Like, your body, there's a purpose for every single thing inside of your body. Like, you weren't built with extra parts, you know, but as soon as you start minusing parts from you, now you're not living a natural human experience, you're living some other unnatural experience. And yes, there are things that do that, you know, like disorders that do, and that's how we learn about these things, because the people that have the calcification of their amygdalas, they end up in the hospital, and then you do research on their brain to figure out what happened. You know what I mean? Like, the reason why we know some of the studies is because when people have lesions in their brain, or something bad happens in their brain, like, that's how we know that that's the region. And I don't think many people that do these studies were like, I like it like this, you know? There are some very rare disorders that allows you to not feel pain. Some girl had it, but it wasn't good as it seems. Yeah, I think it burnt her hand basically bad. I mean, yeah, there's an episode of House. Not House. Yeah, House, I believe. House. I want to say House. That kind of had that same thing. Yes. So, I mean, that's kind of what you're saying, right? I wish I didn't have an amygdala so I wouldn't feel pain, but but that keeps you alive. You know, you need these pain receptors, although it's not good feedback. It does make you pay attention. It does make you think about things. It does make you, you know, move. So again, it's not about not feeling the pain. It's not about not feeling the anxiety. It's about managing it, understanding it, and seeing how you can use it versus allowing it to control your life. That's all. And that's a skill. That's a skill. You know, like, that's a skill. Or we can use medication, but there's some skills that you can do. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I wouldn't encourage the electroshock or the self-gaslighting. Like, you're going down a really, I'd say, scary road. Dangerous. All right. However, during the lead up to a combo, okay, yeah. Yellow highlight here. Unlikely is what they say. Unlikely to lead to better what your faces. Better performance. Perhaps better tournament performance reflects having a specific focus during practice. Don't say. Don't fucking say. All right. Perhaps better tournament performance reflects having a specific focus during practice, whereby the goal is to maximize the number of enemies they eliminate and minimize the amount of times they're eliminated by an enemy. Yeah, I mean, what they're saying is like, okay, they're proposing this goal, right? I think a better goal than just KDA would be like how and where and why you killed the enemy on purpose. You know, that's the thing I really focus on, is not just the action, but the positioning, the thought process, all the other things that go into the goal versus just shooting, killing. Practicing in this manner is largely implicitly driven, and players must self-discover their own solutions to the task, which explain the acute effects that practice has on tournament practice. Okay, I'm just having this. Okay, this is just demonstrating for hours. Okay, fine. Okay. However, future research is needed to support this hypothesis, as the specific goals and motives of esports players during practice were not measured within the present study. Dude, good luck measuring that too. All right, the kill-death ratio of a player was the most significant variable associated with tournament performance over the 8-week period. Furthermore, the kill-death ratio is often seen as one of the most effective ways to evaluate individuals' in-game performance in many different esports genres, in particular first-person shooters. I would say it's the most popular because it's the easiest, but most significant. I don't know. I would say most popular. But I wouldn't say most significant. It could be. I think they say most significant because it's the easiest to like measure. But in my IMO, it only gives you a certain level of data, and it's not always the best. But hey, it's easy to track. Furthermore, the kill-death ratio is often seen as one of the most effective ways to evaluate an individual's in-game performance in many. Okay, players outperforming their opponents is achieved by a kill-death ratio greater than 1, whereas a player underperforming have a kill-death ratio less than 1. Yes, it's true. Despite being an indicator of individual performance, considerations have been raised about the use of KD as a performance indicator within the esports field. Like I said it. The main consideration is that it favors players who play fewer rounds in a match with fewer death, results in a higher KD ratio. For example, sometimes this isn't accurate because like maybe your entry and your job is to die. You know, like you're going to go in and you're going to try to frag, or you're trying to go put yourself into position to trade, or get baited. So naturally some players are going to have lower KDAs than others depending on the role or utility of their position. You know, so that's why I'm saying KDAs aren't always the best, because there are nuances in games that allow players to have positions or opportunities to have higher KDAs than others. Okay. KD ratio would suggest players had similar performance if a player A had 13 kills, 6 deaths in a match of 18 rounds, and a player B has 37 kills and 17 deaths in a match of 30 rounds. Interestingly, there are no cases of collinearity between the variables of weekly kills, weekly deaths, weekly kill-death ratio, weekly match played, and weekly rounds played. Each of the variables of interest measures significant different constructs, which provides evidence to dismiss the consideration that KD ratio favors players who play fewer rounds in a match with fewer deaths will result in higher KD ratio. That's a long. Furthermore, to perform better in the tournaments, you need to be a better performer, as the better performers in the tournaments were also the better players in the lead-ups to the competition. Okay. In terms of understanding the attainment of expertise in esports, KD ratio offers a simple metric to objectively quantify in-game performance during practice for all expertise levels. However, it is important to note that within team-based environments, each player will have a... It's like I said it, man. However, it's important to note that within team-based environments, each player will have a specific role. For example, entry frag plays aggressively and is likely to be eliminated first, which often results in a lower KD ratio. Whereas a lurker player plays slow and calls out opponent's position, which often results in higher KD ratio. It's like I know my shit. Okay. So, I think this article is awesome as it shows that quantity of playing, well, two things. My two takeaways from this article is and we block and we ban. I think the takeaways for me in this article, if I was going to apply them to something, would be: it's great if you play a lot of game. It's great if you spend a lot of time in game, and you will improve in general. I do think that there is time spent in game with improvement. I think that is a positive correlation. That being said, if you want the positive correlation to be more stark, you need to be very intentional in the things that you're trying to achieve in the game. If you're, for example, just playing the game and you're trying to win, I think that you are probably learning things in the game, at least the character, at least how the game works, the map, like these very basic things. But if you really want to get super good at your game, I think it's really important that you do like the nitty gritty pieces, the intentionality, the goal setting, the tracking, the VOD reviewing, so you can actually learn. Because I think that's what they're talking about, is being able to learn to perform. The other thing that I'm taking away from this article is that it doesn't actually, well, KDA is bad to measure. I mean, it sounds like it's a great, easy measurement to have. But not the best. But I think that the second thing I was really going to say is, I think it's in 1 week up into the match that you're playing. If you're really I mean, essentially what they're talking about is cramming. If you cram for your test, you may study and stuff like that, and you may reduce some of your anxiety, but the information may not stick because you're trying to shove all this information into your brain and remember it. It's kind of the same, it seems like, with practicing to perform. I think if you do spend a lot of time practicing before the match, you're probably decreasing your anxiety and feeling like you're improving or feeling like you're putting in the time. But what this article says is that there may not be, that much more performance if you practice a lot more the week before the match. So I think that's also really important to consider. That's so time may not always be the thing. I think it's interesting that the quality of what you're doing seems to be the most important in all areas of life, not just games. I think it's life, it's school, it's relationships, it's all these things. I mean, you could spend a lot of time with somebody and still not know them, or you could spend a lot of time at school and still be dumb at what you're studying because you haven't really been intentional in what you're studying or how you're studying and what you're trying to get out of it. So I think that's true. Intentionality be king. Yep. Do not get it twisted. Time does not always equal expertise, but time is important in expertise. And whew, man, Bonbon, that was so fun, bro. That was really fun. Well, thank you for coming to another episode of Reading with Ryan. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. I wish that I had charged my Switch so I could have maybe played some Pokemon Unite, but maybe that's another day to play. But no, but thank you so much for coming to the stream. I hope you all learned a little bit about practice, time spent in game, how you could learn more about it or what you could do. I love these streams. And I love you, man. I hope you learned something. The back and forth is always so fun, Bonbon. Thanks for coming and engaging in the conversation. That was super fun. Yeah, I'll be back on Tuesday, I believe. 5 p.m. PST. We'll run through another article with esports. Maybe we'll play some games. I think we just gotta hop to another meeting. But we're gonna read another article with esports and performance stuff and apply this to your life, your games. But if you want to learn more about me or you want to work with me personally, please visit my website, psychsensei.com. And there you can get all the resources, find links to my YouTube, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my TikTok, my Instagram. All of it there on my, what's your face? React to a psychopath documentary next time, bro. I don't know. Maybe. But again, just don't do what you're doing. Go, what's your face? Do the opposite. Yeah, so also, if you want to work with me or you want to figure out your win condition and start working towards it today, please fill out a free consultation form and you and I can sit down and figure out where you want to go and how to get there. All right, friends. Well, please take it easy. Have a safe weekend. And cheer on my boys at USC. We'll be playing in playoffs for CVAL. So we took down UCI, so I'm pretty stoked about that. But I believe it'll be 3 p.m. We'll see. I'll be at the game. Thank you. I try. I try to be jolly and upbeat, man. in this world of darkness and anger and tilt. You gotta try. All right, friends. Please be safe. Please be warm. And remember, stronger mental wins. Pieces. Love ya. Mwah. Bye. What? Jigglyverse? I'm here. What do you want to know? What? Spit it out, Jiggly. I was gonna leave, and then Jiggly said something, so I'm back. Jiggly. Mercy. I want to pursue content / COD. Okay, go on. I got you. Still talking about bags. It's sounding like there's a lot of money being thrown around. I am concerned. Okay, I'm 22 and also going towards my PhD. Hell yeah. Crush that shit. No. Why? Pursue what? The COD, the content, or the PhD? And the answer to all is no. It's not too late. Why would it be too late? And the thing that you are saying is, why didn't I do this sooner? And the next thing to say is, why didn't I start it today or yesterday? So the best time to start something was yesterday, and the second best time to start something is today. Yeah, make it. Go. Try. Play COD. Make content. Do it. Why? I mean, the PhD will always be there. I mean, you can still do both if you want to. Yeah. Any other brain busters? Really? Go. Do it. What's next? What's stopping you, bro? Just go for it. And you know what? If you start, you're going to have no people watch you. What's the big deal? If you can get through that part, you'll be fine. It's also because I've struggled balancing my work-life balance and friends. I mean, that same thing's going to happen when you have a PhD, man. So, I mean, we can practice managing your time. We can practice managing all that stuff. You know, like, you're talking about a skill. You're talking about time management, not like, can you do it? It's not, we're not talking about an ability thing. We're talking about a skill thing, dude. It's what I'm thinking. Unless, you know, something's stopping you, like, physically. But, I mean, if you're struggling just to balance that, you just gotta allocate some time and plan it. You can totally do that. It's not hard. Like, that part's just gonna take time, but you can totally do that. Yo, you know, honestly, Jiggly, send me a message on what's your face. Also, do you also hit the gym? You know, honestly, I do. I try. In my old age, I'm trying to do more cardio than like getting big and bulky, because that's not my goal. I'm just trying to be healthy. And what the research I'm reading is that if you want to be smarter in your brain, the best way to do that is by doing endurance stuff. So if you want to play longer, like just better brain health in general for like games or stuff, like it's always endurance shit. So I'm doing more endurance things like running or like jogging or like hitting my life on the row machine or the fucking elliptical or the stupid stair thing. Did you know, fun fact, that the treadmill was originally designed as a torture device? Yeah, it is. I've actually had a meeting with you before about esports psychology, but yeah, dude, hit me up again, Jiggly. Hit me up again. Yeah, we can always connect. We can always talk stories about your career. Hit me up on Discord, or if you want to hit me up on psychsensei.com. But yeah, 2 fun facts. The best way to increase brain health is endurance training, and endurance training is originally torture devices. I don't know how they're connected, but they are. There you go. Fun facts. Fun facts. But yeah, dude, like, in my personal opinion, if you want to do content, or if you want to try making content, go for it. If it's COD content, go for it. You know, if it's the only thing that's holding you back is balancing work life and friends, all we need to do is sit down and make a, you know, time management calendar for you to try out to manage your time. That's it. And then you're gonna, I mean, essentially what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna be doing the same thing at your PhD. You're gonna be managing your time and your friends and your interests and your sanity, and that's all it's gonna be taking. I mean, what you're talking about is a skill issue. They're not an ability issue. Um, and you know, I think the only thing that what I would encourage you to do is try, because we won't know until we try. And then who's to say that you like it or not? And then where it's gonna take you. So go for it. Don't be scared. Have some fun. What do you think, Jiggly? Oh. Ah. Right. But yes, that's what I'd say for you, Jiggly. Go get it, my friend. Try it out. And yeah, I'll be here if you need any support. All right, friends. Great seeing you again, Jiggly. Long time no see, my friend. Bon, thanks as always for coming on, hanging out. Had a good conversation. But yeah, I want to, but I feel like if I'm not giving it, what's the point? Well, I mean, you're giving it 0%, so what's the point to, you know? I'm grateful for your help. Please sleep well. You too, my friend. Yep, go for it. Hey, man, 50% is even more than 0 if you even try, and then, hey, just try it. It doesn't seem like your issue is effort or whatever. It's just getting started, so go get started. Try it. Get started. I guess that's everyone's homework. Get started. All right, friends. Love you. Take it easy. Mwah. Bye.
Well, here's the sleep shop's answer.